Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today is the day. It is the beginning of the LCS lock-in knockout stage of the tournament. We got through the whole group stage, which was a lot of fun. It was really exciting in some ways. It sucked that teams had visa issues. Some teams performed a lot better than we expected. Some teams, kind of sucked when we expected them to maybe be a little bit better. But it all played out into this bracket that you see on the screen. This has kind of the date and times for all the games. If you are interested in catching a specific game, watching a specific team, or what have you. In today's video today, we are going to be running through every single matchup, giving my thoughts and predictions, all kind of reviewing, what happened during the group stage for each of these teams, but then also what I think the bracket stage is going to look like going forward for each of these. And I hope to get your guys' thoughts and opinions as well, but I think this is really going to be so fun. I think this should be an exciting weekend. I think there are some spicy matchups, but then looking ahead to the bracket, man, the semifinal games and the finals are going to be a ton of fun. I really think this lock-in tournament's already been a big success, but I think it's going to continue to be just a great idea for the LCS overall. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, if you're not already subscribed, definitely click that subscribe button really quick. I think right now we're sitting right around 6,150 subscribers, so hey, we're slowly making that move to 6,200. I think we have like 30% of the people that are that watch my videos are subscribed, so there's still so many of you guys right now that are watching this that are not subscribed. We can help just continue to run those numbers up. Also, drop a like on this video if you do enjoy it. If you do want to help support my content and my channel, get my videos out to more and more people, that would be awesome. With that being said, let's get right into these matchups. We got some good games today. We're kicking off the day with what I wouldn't say is necessarily the best matchup, the 100 Thieves versus Immortals game. Obviously, Immortals topping that group over in Group A, and this was really interesting. 100 Thieves was a team that I was pretty hyped up for. Obviously, they're the Golden Guardians team that ended 2020 pretty strong, almost knocking out TSM out of the playoffs, and obviously TSM then went on to win the LCS title. So there was a world where, potentially Golden Guardians last year could have been going to World if things had gone a little bit differently their way. Now we see, maybe going to Worlds wasn't the best thing for TSM in the end, as they end up going 0-6, getting kind of memed into the ground, and maybe you wouldn't have wanted that for Golden Guardians, but it was pretty funny. Anyway, 100 Thieves is that Golden Guardians team plus Someday, so they're a team that played together, meshed well, with even more kind of experience and just and time under their belt together, plus Someday, who's been a beast in the top lane. So I expected this team to be really good this year, but especially in the lock-in tournament, starting off very strong, since there's so much existing synergy already on this team, and for the most part, that's what we have seen. Obviously, they did drop one game where they haven't looked great, but in the preseason, where every single team, dropped at least one game, we didn't have any undefeated teams in the group stage, so every team has had kind of an off game, but also B of 1s can just be really chaotic and really hectic. I do think 100 Thieves is one of the stronger teams heading into the knockout stage so far, and I think they'll continue to be really good. I think they're a fun, exciting team to watch. They have a lot of awesome pieces, and they have a bright future ahead of them. Immortals on the other side, not quite as exciting. They actually had some pieces that were looking solid. I think Insanity is actually pretty good as far as North American mid laners go, which is obviously a step below most other types of mid laners. But I do think he has potential to grow into a decent, solid North American mid laner in the future. Revenge has looked okay so far, but obviously Immortals has decided to swap in their academy team, and their academy team almost took a game off FlyQuest yesterday, so this is a team that can be scary. The academy team has played together a lot, and some of these academy teams have played together more than some of these LCS teams, but again, that will not be the case against this 100 Thieves team. So I do think 100 Thieves is very talented. I think Immortals is not very talented, not very exciting. I think this will be an easy 2-0 series win for 100 Thieves. I think they will be moving on. I think this will be one of probably the less interesting series. I think this is just a huge mismatch with a very established and talented team against an academy team. So 100 Thieves should absolutely run them over. I'm not too excited for that series, unfortunately. But the next one, we're finishing up Saturday strong, is obviously C9 against TSM. Now, I don't know if this will be any better of a series. There's a chance that Cloud9 obviously just absolutely runs over TSM. Cloud9 has looked very different in a lot of their games. Obviously, in their very first game, a lot of people were kind of memeing them that they looked pretty terrible against Evil Geniuses. It kind of looked like they were just straight up inting. Perk saying he's not going to die, and then he actually dies like 7 or 8 times in that first game against EG. People expected EG to be a solid team, but we expected Cloud9 to be, pretty much the second best team in the LCS, and Evil Geniuses to maybe be like 5th or 6th. So to lose Evil Geniuses, especially in the way that they did, was not a great way to start the season. But then obviously Cloud9 has turned things on pretty spectacular. spectacularly since then, finishing 3-1. They've looked great. But the thing was that Cloud9's group was honestly not that tough. I mean, who did they beat? They beat FlyQuest when FlyQuest didn't have Jose Dioto and looked pretty terrible. They beat Immortals, who's obviously having a ton of roster issues. And then they beat Dignitas as well, who didn't even get out of the group that had Immortals in it, and people kind of expect Dignitas to be one of the worst teams in the league. So overall, yes, Cloud9 has gotten to 3-1. They have looked much better, but they really haven't been tested since that Evil Geniuses game. So in the one kind of difficult game they've had so far, they lost. So there is some legitimate question marks, but the question would be, is TSM going to actually be a challenging game? Because on the TSM side, they finished their group 2-2, but the two difficult games they had to play, 100 Thieves and Team Liquid, they looked absolutely terrible. And then they had two, what we call easy games with CLG, where they absolutely stomped them. They took care of business. They did what they needed to do. And then Golden Guardians, where they needed a miracle Baron steal to barely squeak out a win against one of the weaker teams in the LCS, especially a really, really young and inexperienced team coming into the lock-in tournament, where they haven't even had time to grow and kind of even become fully LCS players yet. So, Cloud9 has not super impressed so far. I mean, especially Perks, he has been very, very just kind of underwhelming. He hasn't been terrible, he just hasn't been good. And with the amount of money they're paying him and kind of how the hype and expectations were coming in, especially being a world-class mid laner in North America, which is a historically weak league for mid lane, Cloud9 has just been left a lot to be desired. With that being said, Blabber has looked insane the last couple of games. Sven has looked maybe the best he's ever looked in North America these last couple of games. So Cloud9 is scary. It's just kind of weird that it's not through Perks. Fudge has also been a huge question mark in the top lane, but can TSM punish it? TSM has looked terrible on the Rift. They've looked terrible in their drafts, and I think people are coming in with overall pretty low expectations. But again, I still think there is some legitimate concerns and questions about Cloud9 as well. But in the end, I do have Cloud9 taking this down, but I think TSM could win a game. I could see a 2-1 series. If C9 absolutely 2-0s them in like 2 20-minute games, I would honestly not be surprised either. I really wish that, I was hoping that TSM would look better from week 1 to week 2, but what we saw yesterday from them was just terrible. Kind of the same draft issues, and then it didn't look any better on the Rift. But I do think Team Liquid is a completely different beast. I think they are clearly the best team in the LCS right now. So I don't want to hold that too much against them. I think just because they look terrible against Team Liquid doesn't necessarily mean they have to look terrible against Cloud9, but Cloud9 is definitely going to be a huge favorite in this series, so I'm definitely going to be picking them to move on. And then that sets up a really, really interesting semifinal between 100 Thieves and Cloud9. That should be a fun one. Next up, we have the 3-0 team from week 1 that is now a 3-1 team in Evil Geniuses. This team looked so good in week 1. Impact getting 3 Renekton games and absolutely smashing all 3 of those games. Jizuke looked like a big carry, definitely, and Ignar looked like a really, really formidable bot lane, and Svenskeren is just, as reliable as ever. But this team obviously did come back into this week and lose to FlyQuest, who looked absolutely terrible last week. Yes, they had Jose Dioto now. They got Palafox onto Akali. He looked a little bit better in some of these games. But I still think there's some legitimate questions about FlyQuest because, man, they have just looked kind of rough, and losing a game to them as Evil Geniuses is definitely a little bit worrying, especially if Evil Geniuses was wanting to kind of cement themselves as like a top 2 or 3 team in the LCS. They looked like it the first week, but now there is definitely some legitimate questions in my mind. But they are playing against Golden Guardians, who they have looked a little bit more explosive and exciting than a lot of people have expected, but man, they have just kind of, they make some silly mistakes. I mean, they play like a young, inexperienced team. With that being said, I think they can be a little bit surprising. I think they can do some unexpected things. And again, this is a team that should hopefully get better the more experience they get, because some of the talent is clearly there. They can do some things well. They're just kind of still figuring out how to play, how to win. But with that being said, I think Evil Genius is a huge favorite in this matchup, but I am actually going to pick Golden Guardians to win a game, just because Evil Geniuses did not really impress me with that FlyQuest game yesterday. So what have they done lately? I think, there is a world where Evil Geniuses could drop some games, especially, as we've seen, get Impact off that Renekton. Maybe EG looks like a completely different team. I don't know. We'll see how that one goes, but I'm definitely expecting Evil Geniuses to move on. But, I'm hoping for some 3-game series. I want to see a lot of games. I want to see some interesting, exciting series. These are only BO3, so if we can get some games in game 3, that would be fun. But I think Evil Genius should be moving on. And then finally, we have TL and Fly to wrap up the weekend. Team Liquid finally has Santorin. He looked good so far. Obviously, they just absolutely stomped all over TSM yesterday. Last week, they looked pretty good as well, even with Armeo, Grig, whatever you want to call him, in the lineup. But again, that was kind of the big question mark, that Santorin was one of the bigger signings for this team, so you couldn't really, it wasn't really too fair to judge them before then. Core JJ has looked insane. Tactical looked really good against TSM yesterday. Alfari is looking like he might be the best top laner in North America, and I think he's going to get better even as he learns that synergy with Santorin. Jensen has looked very, very solid to start the season. He hasn't been absolutely amazing, but he hasn't needed to be, so we'll see how that continues to go. Again, on the other side, FlyQuest, last week without Jose Dioto, they look terrible, 0-2. Now they have Jose Dioto. He's 2-0. He's undefeated. As Perk said, he's the best import in North America of all time. He had a crazy Baron steal yesterday, but part of that was just because Immortals absolutely just botched that Baron play. But hey, this guy is exciting. He has just that spark, that flair, where he finds a way to make those big plays happen. It's not like he forced that mistake, but he's just a guy who's always in the right place at the right time. And again, it seems to be exciting this team, bringing some life to the FlyQuest team that they did not have last week. But also Palafox, absolute beast on the Akali, got that twice. And they needed to win some games, and they did, and that was good and exciting to see. But man, unlucky for them to be drafting Team Liquid in their best of 3 matchup, because again, I think Team Liquid is clearly the best team in North America right now, and I think it's going to be a tough matchup, and I think they're going to make FlyQuest look like a very young and experienced team, just like they are, and I think this is going to be a pretty dominating 2-0 for Team Liquid in the end, and this is going to set up another very, very exciting semifinals. Man, if this is how everything plays out, and even if it's not, if it plays out different than this, then things get even more spicy and more interesting. But if this is what the bracket looks like going into next weekend, these matchups are going to be insane. Seeing these best of 5 between 100 Thieves and Cloud9, Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid, really getting to see where these teams kind of rank in terms of the LCS headed into the spring split. But then also getting to see how whoever wins this, or however the teams shape out in this, and then how they shape up like at the end of spring split, at the end of summer split. I think this lock-in tournament would be a really, really cool thing to kind of see what happens right now, but then also to look back on and see how the teams have grown over the course of the season. But these will be some spicy matchups. We have some exciting matchups and games coming into play today. And yeah, I know Cloud9 TSM is probably going to be the most hype one, with 2 huge teams and kind of the closest matchup on paper. I think the other 3 series should hopefully not be as close, but we'll see how that goes. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Again, it helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm, and I would appreciate it. Leave a comment down below. What do you think is going to happen in the games this weekend? What teams, what matchups, what players are you looking out for, and what are your predictions? I would love to hear them. Subscribe to update on my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.